The article A Defense of Abortion was written by Judith Thomson in 1971. While it was written 50 years ago, these topics are still highly relevant today. Thomson goes through various levels of pro-life arguments, starting with the strictest views and working her way down to less strict views. Thomson creates different scenarios to represent various dilemmas women are put in when considering an abortion. This allows the reader to consider scenarios objectively without thinking about abortion directly. In our video, we will depict these scenarios through skits and explain how they relate back to her argument that abortion is not always morally impermissible. Thomson believes there are many scenarios in which abortion is morally permissible because a woman has a right to her own body.
Thomson uses the upcoming analogy of an acorn in a tree to compare to that of a fetus in a person.
Hey guys, is this a tree?
I don't think so.
That's an acorn. Oh.
Doesn't really look like a tree to me.
Is that an acorn?
No, I think that's a tree.
Oh.
Just as an acorn is not a tree, it can also be said that a fetus is not yet a person. Although the two are clearly different, there may be no dividing line, and so we will still assume that a fetus is a person for the sake of our argument. Even with this assumption, it can still be concluded that abortion is not always impermissible.
The next analogy in the article is the violinist and a woman. In this scenario, a woman is kidnapped and her circulatory system is connected to a stranger's. This stranger happens to be a famous violinist. Throughout the article, Thomson uses this analogy multiple times to connect her main points.
Oh my gosh, what is this? Who are you?
Didn't you hear I'm the great violinist? Thanks for letting me use your kidneys, by the way.
My kidneys? I don't want you to use my kidneys.
Well, but I'm gonna die.
In this case, the woman represents a person who is pregnant, while the violinist represents a fetus. The woman in the skit, as she was kidnapped, did not give her consent to have her body used to sustain another person's. Thomson uses this analogy to defend abortion in cases where women become pregnant as a result of rape. Through this analogy, she raises the question, should a woman have to give her body for 9 months to sustain another life if she did not give permission?
Thomson then addresses the right to life argument against abortion, stating that many present the argument as unproblematic. Does having a right to life include a right to the bare minimum one needs to live? In the next scenario, a patient requires the touch of Justin Bieber's hand to be healed after contracting a rare fever. I'm sorry, ma'am, but it looks like you have Bieber fever. The only thing that can save you now is Justin Bieber's cool hand.
Please save me, Justin Bieber.
Thomson utilized the late Henry Fonda as her miracle cure celebrity, not Justin Bieber. But regardless of the individual, the point is made that it would be nice for the celebrity to utilize his cool hand to cure the patient, but one has no right to their hand, even if it is the bare minimum needed for one to continue living. A fetus does not have a right to the continued use of a pregnant woman's body. Justin Bieber can choose to use his cool hand to cure the patient, but he, like the pregnant woman, does not have to.
In this next skit, imagine you and a child are both trapped in a small house. The child is growing rapidly and will soon take up all the room in the house. This would result in you being crushed to death, but the child would survive once it breaks out. The only way for you to save yourself is to kill the child in self-defense. Thomson argues that someone should not be subjected to waiting for their death. It is permissible for them to practice self-defense even if the other person is innocent.
Oh no, it's crushing me.
This scenario represents a woman considering an abortion due to a life-threatening pregnancy. This means carrying out the pregnancy would result in the death of the mother. While some pro-life advocates believe that a woman should carry to term despite risks to the mother, Thomson argues this is unjust to the woman. Thomson's conclusion is that a woman should not be forced to let the pregnancy kill her. Instead, she should have the option to preserve her own life by terminating the pregnancy. Another pro-life argument is that the abortion could not be carried out by a third party, but rather only by the mother. However, Thomson rebukes this argument because the woman and child are not sharing a body equally, but rather the woman owns her body. Therefore, if a woman wishes a procedure to be performed, it is permissible for a third party to grant those wishes.
Imagine that child seeds are floating around in the air outside as pollen. If any of these seeds were to get inside your house, they would attach to any furniture or carpeting that you have and grow into a child. You could make sure that no unwanted child grows in your house by not having any carpeting or furniture inside your house, and always keeping your windows sealed tight. But instead, you want to have furniture and enjoy opening your windows, so you install the best screens that money can buy to try and keep out all the pollen. But the screens are not always 100% effective. If a child were to slip in, past all the precautions, must you still raise the child?
I'm a screen salesman, and these screens that I'm trying to sell you today are 99% effective at removing all pollen. There's going to be no pollen coming into your houses.
Wow, I'm so glad I have these state-of-the-art screens installed. I love having my windows open with no pollen coming in. One windy day. What is going on here? Looks like there's pollen outside. What is this? Why is there pollen in my house?
Why do you have carpet and furniture in here? You know pollen only attaches to carpet and furniture.
But I was so careful. I installed the window screens to prevent this.
The case of the child seeds in a window represents the use of contraceptives. Contraceptives are not always 100% effective and sometimes fail. If a couple takes all of the necessary precautions to try to prevent pregnancy, but these precautions do fail, they are not responsible for the pregnancy that occurs, and abortion is still permissible in this case.
Overall, these outlandish skits demonstrate Thomson's point that abortion is not impermissible in all cases. Through the violinist example, Thomson determines that abortion is permissible in cases of rape. In the child in a house example, Thomson determines that abortion is permissible where the pregnancy is life-threatening. She also concludes that a third party can perform that abortion. Through using Henry Fonda, or in our case, Justin Bieber, Thomson concludes that having the right to life does not entitle the fetus to have the means to support that life. Through the last example of seeds floating through a window, Thomson concludes that abortion is permissible even after a person willingly engages in intercourse after taking reasonable precautions. Therefore, abortion is not always immoral.
Ultimately, these skits only make sense if the child is considered to be a full human. If the child is not a human, much like the acorn is not the tree, then none of these skits are relevant and abortion is always permissible.